Well, incumbent President Uhuru Kenyatta has addressed his supporters from State House. He's urging people to vote in the election and has taken a far more conciliatory tone than his opposition counterpart.
I believe and commit to the fact that if we hold together as a country through these challenges, I believe that we have the capacity to respect the independence of our constitutional institutions. And I further believe that all of us, including those that we have charged with the responsibilities and governance, will also put aside partisan ambitions to participate in the democratic process once again. I believe that if we do so, we will emerge from this episode a stronger, more confident, and more united as a people. Our forefathers fought and died for the right of the African to vote. We dare not reject the inheritance our elders so painfully won. Instead, it is my firm belief that it is our duty to protect and exercise this right, but also remain mindful of its price. I say that after you vote, and I have said this before, please go home. Go back to your neighbor. Remember that in spite of their origin, your neighbor is your brother. Your neighbor is your sister.
Well, it's been months of electoral drama for Kenya here. Well, let's get you more on today's developments. Susan Mwongeli is joining me live from the opposition stronghold in Kisumu, and Robert Nagila has been keeping tabs on this development here in Nairobi. Robert, thank you. First to you, though, it's been a rather dramatic day today for Kenya Supreme Court and the Kenyan voter, but the vote will go ahead now on Thursday. So what can we expect?
Well, thank you very much, Beatrice. There's a number of things that we're going to be looking out for tomorrow when the polling stations open at 6 a.m. on Thursday. The first one is going to be the turnout. What sort of turnout are we going to be experiencing, and how many polling stations are going to be able to open and conduct the process, and in how many counties around the country? Because inevitably, the question of legitimacy will spring up after these polls. The next thing that we're going to be looking at is going to be the process itself, how the process is going to be conducted by the Electoral Commission. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of focus on the transmission of results, the counting of the votes itself, so that's another area. Now, on the other side, as far as the opposition is concerned, we're also going to be looking at whether their supporters have heeded the call to stay away from polling stations and stay at home, whether there's going to be any disruption in the electoral process itself tomorrow, and whether, this is very, very important, there's going to be any violence, because that is likely to have repercussions going further. Right.
Susan, to you, a second day of protest there in Kisumu. It's been protest after protest, though, over the last couple of weeks. So what more can you tell us about that? What's happening at the moment right now?
Well, Beatrice, the situation right now, it's calm. Things have really calmed down, especially after opposition leader Raila Odinga called for people to really remain calm. But basically, during the day, we did see a lot of action, especially after that Supreme Court quorum hit. We saw people flock the streets, most of them really demonstrating against the IEBC. They marched all the way to the IEBC offices, calling for a boycott or rather a postponement of the election, and really saying that they will not participate in the election. Now, there they were addressed by their political leaders who at the time insisted that there will be no elections and really calling for the boycott. After that, they did go back to Kondele, where they were waiting for that announcement by Raila Odinga. But during that time, they were met by heavy security, and we do understand there was a bit of fracas. And in that, we also understand that a young boy was injured in the incident. He was taken to hospital. He's much better now. But basically, after that, really, after the ruling, not after the ruling, but after that announcement by Raila Odinga, things have really cooled down as we speak now.
Right, Robert, back to you though. As you've seen from Susan's report there, this has become quite a polarizing election, and you know, as we talk about the opposition versus the ruling party here, we're seeing divisions probably right across the middle, across the country. So how worried are we about the divisions in the country? Well,
Beatrice, we're in uncharted territory. I know we've used this term a lot after the first Supreme Court ruling, uncharted territory, and again today as well, because there was that announcement by the opposition where they announced that they were changing their coalition into a resistance movement. Now, there's been a lot of people, experts and everybody, trying to break it down as to what exactly they mean by that and what form or shape it will take. We had a bit about that, the opposition saying that this is going to take the form of civil disobedience. Whether it goes further, we do not know. What was very interesting, Beatrice, was the fact that in the president's address, and this we believe he deliberately left it until very late so that the Electoral Commission had given their press briefing, the opposition had addressed their supporters, so that then he could come up with his speech, which we understand there was a few changes here and there. What was very interesting, instrumental, was that he did not at all react to what the opposition said. We've had from some members of his party who've reacted rather negatively. We've not heard from the president. Like you rightly said, he's seeking a reconciliatory tone. We believe that immediately after the election, if he is declared winner, we expect to hear some form of reaction. There's a lot of people out there worried what this means for the country going forward. There's a lot of people who thought that with this election, Kenya's back on the road. However, this is just the beginning. It does appear now that we still have another crisis to go through, if you can call it that, after these elections, because the opposition is now calling for another election in 90 days and calling for civil disobedience. So we'll see what sort of impact that will have, and whether Kenyans will basically get to a point and say, you know what, we're tired, we want to get up, or say, you know what, we want these reforms in place and we believe that the system needs to be overhauled.
Right. Indeed, many people will be asking questions moving forward. Susan, though, Kisumu is considered an opposition stronghold here. Will people boycott the vote tomorrow? Can we expect trouble? Because opposition leader Raila Odinga has actually called on his supporters to stay away from the polling stations.
Yes, Beatrice, definitely people here and the ones that we spoke to say that they will not participate in the elections. They will definitely boycott that election. But about violence, we really don't know, but we do know that there's been a lot of deployment of police officers here, and it's likely that the people will be kept on check. But then again, as I said before, after that announcement or that speech by Raila Odinga, things have really cooled down. It's not the tension that we experienced earlier on today or yesterday or the other days. The tension has really reduced. So about violence, that might not be so much, but then again, we expect something to happen, and as you can see, some random person there shouting that we are not going to vote, so definitely they're not going to be voting tomorrow. But earlier on today we also had the Nyanza Nyanza Regional Commissioner saying that, Wilson Dega saying that there's enough security to ensure that the polls do go on, and the people were told that if you are not taking part in the election, please stay at home and do not infringe on anyone's right to vote. And should you do that, then action will be taken to you. But generally the thing is, people will not take part in the election here, but generally about violence, we can only wait and see and hope really that that doesn't happen.
Right, still a very fluid situation there in Kisumu. Susan Mwangeli for us there, and Robert Nagila in studio with me. To you both, thank you.